match real quick? Okay, cool. Y'all sound like some snap, crackle, and pop. Perfect. And if you hear a line that tastes good, like all this good fruit and food that they done gave to us, go but with an ugly face though. Go Everybody do it. Ready? And if you really want to get into it, because I'm not into no quiet poetry, go yes. Everybody, come on, yes. I appreciate you. All right. So I'm gonna do two pieces. Ooh, I didn't mean to breathe in the mic like that. Alright. My father would warn me to yell fire if I was ever in danger, instead of yell for help, because people tend to fall in buildings more than fall in women, and by the time this poem is written, I will have more stories of how I never used it. Have walls I built and walls in need of repair. Have glass bursting from the windows to my soul. I should have yelled fire when Dwayne used my water against me. I could have yelled fire when Josh snuffed me with his body. I wouldn't yell fire when my father's stepkids thought me a kitchen stove their mother dared them not to touch. I just became fire, hoping to burn my body into a smoke signal and float away into sky, but they all just warm themselves against my blaze like campfire, rubbing together their hands, trying to throw in their sticks. How can I yell fire? Well, thank you. How can I yell fire when it needs oxygen to survive, and rape culture and toxic masculinity are all suffocating things, and ain't fire such a cliche? Ain't rape such a cliche? I know you've heard of a woman scorned, but have you ever seen her scorched? Scaling like dragon, ready to breathe the flames you were looking for. Fire and brimstone be my jewelry. I have been a burning city for too long, and I told you to think twice before looking back at me. Now you pillar of salt, and I'm pillar of smoke, warning you that my mouth is no longer a melted metal, and I'm screaming not just for the girls y'all, not just for me, but for the girls y'all set on fire after me. This was not how I wanted to be a trailblazer, and I am so sorry that I was afraid to burn too brightly that my father would know that I did not listen to him. And everyone will know that my body is damaged. My father warned me to yell fire, but he didn't tell me about the people who created them. How you can see the ash left under their fingertips. Dwayne is a fire starter in Baltimore. Josh be a fire starter in my family tree. And children will be always used to playing with fires left around the house. And we all used to fire burning those around us. And if you're wondering why now, to get to this part of healing is a slow burn. Is a flame crawling on the perimeter of the predator's touch. Roasting in pain until it's just right and ready to eat niggas. Do you see us? Just waiting to be put out of the misery. To be a voiceless victim is to be a match burnt down to the fingertips. To be a voiceless ally is to be a kerosene firecracker speed spit to the face. Look around you. The glow that you see from us ain't beautiful. It is holding in a volcano. And when we open our mouths, we must coat everyone and everything, even ourselves, in magma. So when you see the pyre with the piles of our bodies, you better speak. You better scream. You better cry. You better yell. Thank you. Y'all good? Everybody okay? Okay. This next piece I thought was just a little too perfect to do. Oh wow. Okay. Hold on one second. Yeah, I did that. Every time I do one of those poems in front of a black girl, a little black girl, she be like, "Oh, you better do that in front of white people." Actually, this one is in my book, so I'm gonna put it right there. And if you want one, it's only $10. Only $10? That's free plus $10. Now I look more educated. Look at that. I live in Baltimore, located in the DMV. It's where danger meets violence, in Maryland. Pretend to be the MD but can't cure our illnesses. And there are sicknesses of people with no family at all leaning 45 degrees off of 35 G's, because who else can they lean on besides their dealer? Who got a family leaning on them? Now, when does that cycle end? We have police here who never had a chicken box, but love salt, pepper, and ketchup. See the way white cops scatter over black bodies, painting the town red, ripping us half and halves. We literally brood and bruises by police and cruisers, and the cloth of my skin being dark as cracks on colored skulls. I never thought I could die red. I live where they try to frighten you in your dreams, no matter if you're black or gray. And if you spell cop backwards, you find out who the enemy be, people of color. It ain't no secret. Lynching wasn't abolished with slavery. Neither were the ideas that justified it. It's just buried under a new name, planting seeds of injustice. I call them Eric Gardeners. Giving toy guns to little boys to play with after they are dead. Boys who never expected to make it anyway, sometimes flirted with death, but police always seemed to shoot they shot first. How many mothers had to give up their bodies to take care of children they held in their bodies to men who claim if they own your house, your utilities, they think they have access to your body? How you gonna claim a God, nigga? Don't you know she holds Harriet in her bone, shotgun in her swag, the Underground Railroad in her birth canal? But ain't that like a Baltimore woman or any black woman to give everything she has for her children so they can dance on y'all graves one day? To Balter means to dance wild and free. So in Baltimore, we avenue to claim the streets back until our knees hurt. So all the cameras our mayor paid for instead of heaters for our schools, they can see us at our freest before cops get the heaters and take our souls. And there are poets here praying that if we write enough, we can rewrite the future. So we always keep our pen north marching in our ghetto El Dorado, glistening with so much black and blood and sweat and tears and love and passion. I live in Baltimore, the greatest city in America. Now, when will you see it? Thank y'all so much. I gotta skedaddle, but if you like me, you can follow me everywhere but my house at Metamorphosis. And I hope you did like me. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
We can do better than that for Metamorphosis. So Mecca, I don't know if you want to leave a couple of your books with us, and then we can sell them for you, and because I know you have to leave. I don't know how many you have, but you can leave them with Roxana. Okay, all right. Okay, so just tell everybody where they can get it. Okay. It's right there. There you are. That's a beautiful picture, too. Good morning. My name is Jan Desper Peters, and I am the daughter of Gloria, who is the daughter of Irma, and both born in Louisa County, Virginia. And I proudly serve as the executive director of the Black Mental Health Alliance for the second time. Two times. In the spirit of my ancestors, I'm going to start out with a prayer. I pray that the words of our mouths and the meditations of our heart are acceptable in your sight, Lord, because you are our strength and our Redeemer. I speak healing, restoration, and deliverance, and I pray that it move from heart to heart and breast to breast, Lord. Amen. Welcome to the first act of the Trilogy of Trauma, Breaking the Silence. Black women, love yourself first. The primary goal of this seminar is to alleviate the pain and suffering of traumatic experiences that Black women have endured by working to save the world, but failing to love themselves first, and to harness the spirit of power and resilience that resonates in the Black Girl Magic social media movement. You will receive life-saving healing techniques and tools as well as therapeutic interventions that will change the definition of superwoman to self-care, self-love, and self-worth. Did you know that 137 black women die from a preventable heart disease every day? That's more than from violence, HIV, and cigarettes combined. We are here because we need to stand on the front line to fight for change in our communities, and we need to be healthy to do that. You are in a safe space with other black women who only want the very best for you. We've even shifted the energy in the room. If you look at the table signs and the flowers and the music, we've done everything we can to shift the energy to positive. You are here because you are supposed to be here. We sent the information out on a Friday, and by Monday, people were calling me Mrs. Peters. That's my other Mrs. Peters over there. To say, Jan, it's sold out. How can I come? When she told me that, and I didn't even know it was sold out, I knew we were on to something. We were excited as we planned the trilogy. But after Monday, when we knew Monday afternoon that we were definitely onto something big. How many of you were given a little presentation about Slido? Anybody know? So if we can put up the little slide about Slido. It's not a play on words. So we're asking you to engage in some technology today. We are asking you to download the app Slido. You can go to your Apple Store or go to the website. Okay, maybe I need somebody else to talk about technology. You can engage with today's workshop by using Slido. Please connect to www.slido.com, and then you have to enter our code, which is TOT Act 1. The reason that this is important is because you can ask questions during the panel presentation. We're doing a short polling survey through Slido, and we're also doing our evaluation through Slido. We have probably about 6 or 7 volunteers, and I have my full staff here. So if they're going to be roaming and roving, and if you need help, touch somebody with a Black Mental Health Alliance shirt and say, I need help with Slido. And it's okay. There are only going to be 2 men in this space for the full time that we're here, and that's only because they're doing technology. Yeah, I got that, man. All right. You may ask your questions through Slido, and you all will engage in tabletop discussions to compile self-care, self-love, and self-work tips and tools from the presentations and from each of your personal rituals. So please silence your phones, be present, and lean all the way in to your healing. I'm going to play a short clip. And so while we're doing that, if the 3 presenters this morning could transition to the front table. And I internet stalker, I'm going to publicly admit that. If you have come to our conferences and our summits and our education sessions, then you know we always have the brightest minds nationally and locally. I have not been able to secure Dr. Joy DeGroob. If you can help me, you're going to be my new best friend. So this is the way this panel discussion is going to work. I'm going to introduce my old friends and my new friend. They're going to come and speak with you for about 15 minutes in the order that I'm going to introduce them. Please remember again, Slido is there for you to post questions. And Okay. James just reminded me also, we asked the question, what are your expectations for the day? So that's one of the things that I want you to engage with Slido with as well. It is anonymous. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Carter. It's anonymous. You don't have to worry about us knowing who you are or anyone in the room knowing who you are. It is anonymous. Thank you so much. Gracie Johnson and I have known each other probably for 20 years at least. Gracie has been a social worker and worked in the field of trauma recovery for over 35 years. Shelter Dizia. Zia. No, D is silent.
There we go.
Z, okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Did I do it right? Ziza. Okay, thank you. Shelter is my new friend. She's a psychology teaching fellow in the psychology department at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Dr. Lakita Carter is my shero. She has 4 small children, and she got here at 8 o'clock this morning. She's also my soror, my board member, and my friend. She's a licensed psychologist and the owner of the Institute for Healing, and they will present in that order. Miss Gracie Johnson, Shelter Zia, I did good that time, and Dr. Lakita Carter. Let's welcome them to this space.
Take my shoes off. Okay. Patty LaBelle. Okay. I'm a licensed certified social worker. As Jan said, I've been in practice for about 35 years. I moved from kind of mental health over to the art side of healing. So I do a lot of work with creative healing, journaling, art therapy. I am a jewelry designer. I've kind of moved out of mental health into the arts. So music is my go-to as it relates to healing. If you come to my boutique, I have a boutique on Charles Street, 2107 North Charles, and it's a touch of Gracie. So if you Facebook me, you can find me there. So we're going to talk about women and trauma. When we looked at the research, it shows that over 50% of Black women have trauma-related issues, are broken because of trauma experiences. Trauma is one of those things that it's hard to kind of describe. It's something that you've had to have experienced or witnessed. Trauma is one of those extraordinarily stressful events, like a natural disaster, witnessing a murder and community violence. It could be divorce. It could be the death of a loved one. So all of these things affect us. So I beg to differ with the research. I would think that 100% of us have been traumatized at some point on some level. So at one point, back in the day, there were a group of Black psychiatrists in Baltimore. They recognized that they too needed to do some work, some healing. So they asked me to facilitate a healing circle for them. So first I was kind of taken aback, like, these are psychiatrists, these are doctors, I'm just a social worker. And so they wanted me to help them to do their healing work. So we decided we would commit to an 8-week session where we would come and kind of talk about healing Black women. These are all Black women doctors. And so at the end of the 8 weeks, they decided we need more work. We want to go further. This group went on for 2 years. We traveled. We went to the Bahamas. We went to Sedona, to the Grand Canyons, because that's all a part of taking care of yourself. Because you can't help somebody else if you don't help yourself. You know, the airplane, they say, what? Put on your mask first. So you have to do that. So that's what this workshop is about. So I'm going to use some music in my workshop. So if you start feeling it, you can get up and move around and start dancing. So let's see. I'm just playing excerpts from this. Okay, so this song, I'm sorry to interrupt the flow, but put this on your playlist. Put this on your playlist. But what this song says is we all got a story. You know, we all have a story, and we can get through that story. You know, and that's just a chapter. That's not the whole novel of our lives. So we close the book on that chapter because we got to open up the next one, and the next one, and the next one. You know, so at this point in my life, I'm 71. So I look at women. So I'm looking at women in my peer group, you know, and I'm like, y'all, we can be free. There are no rules. We can dress like we want. We can wear what we want. We can do what we want. We can be fly. We can be free. We can be sassy and classy, you know. So all that stuff that happened in the past, we just have to look at the lesson, move forward, take it, move on. So this is my next one. You've been forgiven. Because we're hard on ourselves as black women. You know, we take it on, the pain of the universe. You know, we get dumped on by the society. It's, you know, it's our fault. That whole angry black woman syndrome. You know, we have to do the forgiveness. We have to forgive ourselves. We have to feel that we have been liberated to be whom we are today. So, the next song, let's see, heard that. It's whatever, oh, okay. Okay. Whatever you think, it's who you are. You manifest your thoughts. So it's like, no matter what you tell yourself, you can put dress on, look sassy and classy, but it's the attitude, it's the inner thoughts. We kind of dress up the outside, the hair, the nails, but it's the inside that needs the work done. So, you know, reach out. So I got 5 minutes, so let me just come on down. Okay, thank you. There's a winner. You're a winner. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Came about as a result of black women resisting the other stereotypes, right? And so in order to prove that we're not a Mammy or a Jezebel or a Sapphire, I'm gonna be strong, I'm gonna be competent, and I'm gonna accomplish so many things. And so while the idea of being a strong black woman is empowering, it can also be detrimental in several ways. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about the characteristics of the black superwoman. The first, thank you, is the perceived obligation to present an image of strength, right? So as black women, we often feel like we have to keep it together. We gotta look like everything is okay even when it is not. The second point is the perceived obligation to suppress emotions. And so as black women, we feel like we can't be sad, we can't be tired, we can't be depressed, we can't be anxious, because of course that would go against being a strong black woman. And then the third point is the resistance to vulnerability or dependence. And so in order to be strong, you can't depend on another person. And so to maintain that image, you resist being vulnerable, asking for help, because you want to maintain the image of being a strong black woman. And then the fourth point, or fourth characteristic, is the motivation to succeed despite limited resources, right? So when we're talking about resources, we're talking about everything from time, money, help with the kids, etc., right? As black women, we try to figure out a way, often at the expense of depleting ourselves and our resources. And then the fifth point, or the fifth characteristic, is prioritizing caregiving over self-care, right? This is taking care of everybody else, making sure the kids are fed, making sure you've driven so-and-so here, and you've given their meds, etc., and then there's no time left for you. But because, again, you have to appear strong, you continue to give care and support others despite you yourself needing care. Next slide, please. So there are a number of outcomes, negative outcomes associated with this strong black woman syndrome, right? So what are the long-term effects of always having to be strong, always having to sacrifice, always having to give? So I'm not sure you can see the words on here, so I'll just read them out. So in the middle there, I have the black woman stereotype, and starting from the top, outcomes can include anxiety, depression, trauma symptoms like we're talking about today, poor cardiovascular health, reduced academic or work performance, poor marital quality, harsh or neglectful parenting, poor sleep quality, and many more, right? I can't list them all, I can't talk about them all, but essentially it all adds up to stress, and stress can show up in a lot of different ways, both in terms of your mental health and your physical health. Next slide, please. So what is the solution? Well, for one thing, people need to stop oppressing us, right? Thank you. That's the long and the short of it, right? If we could get rid of stereotypes and expectations and all of these things that make us feel like we have to always be on high alert, high performance, our lives would be better. However, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. And so until we get there, I believe the solution is empowerment. Now, there are two components to empowerment, like I mentioned earlier. The first one is what other people do to empower us. And this includes motivating us, encouraging us, and power sharing, right? Oftentimes, this is people in power who should share power. This is other people in our lives who should motivate, encourage, and give us strength, right? But we can't always wait for other people to empower us. The second part of empowerment is empowering ourselves. And this requires us to take back our power.
Come on, say it again.
All right? It requires us to take back our power. And so if you get nothing else from this talk, I want you to take this with you. You have to put yourself first. You have to put yourself first, but that's easier said than done. Easier said than done. So I have a number of suggestions based on my research and the findings about what it constitutes. And so these are a number of different areas that I believe are strategies that Black women can utilize to empower themselves. I'll just read through the list, and then the subsequent slides I'll go into more detail for each one. So the first one is to identify your values. Second is to set boundaries. 3, prioritize your self-expression. 4, ask for help. 5, know the signs and symptoms of distress and mental health challenges. And then prioritize alone time. And then finally, be in charge of your sexual health and your sexual pleasure. All right, so let's talk about each of these in succession. The first thing is to identify your values. And what do I mean by this? I'm talking about the need for you to figure out what is important to you, right? When you know what your values are, what your beliefs are, and what's important to you, it then makes it hard for other people to come and try to snatch your energy, snatch your time, and snatch your resources. So this is what I call a values checklist. Thank you. It's a tool that I use in my mental health practice. I know you can't read it. I just want you to see how you can utilize a values checklist in order to identify your values. So I'll just read one. Adventure, to be adventurous, to actively explore novel or stimulating experiences. And so when you're sacrificing yourself and always giving your time away to others, you don't have time to be adventurous. And so you need to evaluate and say, well, geez, being adventurous is a value of mine. To what extent am I exploring it? And if you find that you're not, you need to reevaluate some of the things that you're doing and the places that you're giving away your time so that you can be able to effectively stick to your values. Next slide. The next thing you need to do is prioritize your self-expression. And here, this includes things like saying no. I know. Just simply saying no to all the numerous requests that you receive, to people asking you to do things that are beyond your capacity, or things that you don't want to do, or things that feel oppressive. Saying that you're tired, right? Challenging injustice. So when you experience those microaggressions at work, ask somebody, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? I don't know, right? And so in essence, it requires you to share your truth and in some ways be vulnerable and brave. Next slide, please. The next thing you need to do is set boundaries. So the first boundary word is just being able to say no. This is a diagram of, what's it called? Boundaries, a game called Boundaries Bingo. And so some of the squares on there include things like paused, listened to my needs and acted accordingly, and asked for what I need, or gave myself to take permission to take breaks outside. So being able to set boundaries and state the things that you need in order for you to preserve yourself, preserve your mind, and preserve your resources. Next slide, please. Next is to know the signs and symptoms of distress. And I'm not asking you to diagnose yourself, and these are certainly not diagnostic criteria. But oftentimes, we are taught to move past the discomfort, work past the discomfort. And so if you feel things like irritability and forgetfulness or lashing out your children, eating too much or too little, not sleeping enough, that's a sign that you're overwhelmed. It's a sign that you're stressed. It's a sign that you need to either take some time out, or you need to rest, or you need to set those boundaries, etc. But at least know some symptoms so that you can be like, you know, something isn't right and I need to get help. Next slide, please. Ask for help. Do I need to explain this? When we're talking about asking for help, you know, you're checking in with trusted friends, you're tapping into your faith and your spirituality and your community around you, and you're also seeking therapy. Next slide, please. And then you want to prioritize alone time, right? Make sure you give yourself a break now and again. Check in with yourself, recharge, rejuvenate, and regenerate, and also take some time to meditate and pray. Next slide. The next point is to prioritize your own sexual health and pleasure. As Black women, we have a history of trauma related to sex and all kinds of things, and I don't need to get into that. But oftentimes this means that Black women feel like the sexual pleasure is not their own. They do it for the other partner, and oh well, this is what I gotta do. And in some cases, it leaves you vulnerable and exposed to STIs, violent sex, and all kinds of things. And so if you prioritize and you take ownership of your sexuality, you reduce the risks of being involved in harmful sexual activities. Next slide, please. So my final thoughts is that help seeking is a strength, right? I want you to understand that asking for help, talking about your problems, being vulnerable is a form of strength. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. The second thing is that mental health professionals are trained to work with you. What do I mean by that? Despite the fact that 10% of mental health professionals are Black, the majority of providers are white, but there's more training on cultural competency, and to an extent you could even try out different therapists until you find the one that's trained to work with you and that's sensitive to your specific cultural values. And then the last point is that it's important for you to use your Black girl magic to heal and strengthen yourself. We often use our Black girl magic and sprinkle it on others. What I'm asking you to do is sprinkle it on yourself. Let's sprinkle some of that Black girl magic. Yes, there you go, right? And all of the awesome ways in which we support and take care of others and still accomplish things means that we have more resources to be even more awesome. So that is all, folks. Thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We are just so blessed and fortunate to have these women here today. I just want to remind you again of Slido. Is there anyone who needs help? So when we ask the question, what comes to mind when you think of trauma, and you saw the words, those are words that you all were putting up there. And then the big words mean that a lot of people put that same word up there. So just want to encourage you to use Slido. And then also, so you don't lose your thought with regard to your question, you can start putting your questions in Slido now. and then you can like the questions, right, James? You can like the questions, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can. So after this next video, Dr. Lakita Carter.
So as my sister said, I'm Dr. Lakita Carter, and I'm a licensed psychologist. I'm a clinical psychologist. And so I do a lot in psychology. I practice, and I do own the Institute for Healing, which is located in Owings Mills. I also teach psychology at the undergraduate and graduate levels, and I write about psychology. So I have a few textbooks on multicultural psych. So. And I do. I have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 22-month-old, and a 7-month-old. Wow. I do have 4 children. And Brother James asked me if they were coming, and I said, absolutely not. Let's talk about trauma a little bit. So my dissertation and all of my research is on female rape survivors. Note the word survivor. Okay? Victims succumb to their injuries. Survivors live past their injury. So the fact that I am looking at you at this very moment means that you are a survivor. It's one of the first things I teach in treatment is when someone comes and says, I'm a domestic violence survivor, a victim or a war victim, we automatically start changing our language because the research shows that your language changes the actual neural pathways in your brain. So what you say matters. Words matter. So one of the things that I want to point out to you is that exactly what Sister Gracie said, we experience many difficult situations every single day. Every difficult situation is not a trauma, okay? Sometimes we just have difficult situations, and that's part of being, as my grandmother would say, if you live long enough, okay? We're always gonna have difficult situations. And sometimes we have traumatic experiences that don't create a trauma reaction. I want to separate a trauma from a trauma reaction. Really bad car accident, that could be traumatic. How many of you experienced a really bad car accident? How many of you had lasting effects of that accident 6 months after it? Okay. So less hands than the people who experienced a really bad car accident. So sometimes we have traumas, but they don't produce a trauma reaction. What happens when they produce a trauma reaction? Because that's what I do every single day. When we have a trauma reaction, our first video actually talked about it, hypervigilance, always on edge, edginess, difficulty functioning vegetatively, so sleeping and eating, over and under sleeping, over and under eating, all right? Easily angered, frustrated, or irritated. Difficulty connecting with the things that you used to enjoy. Those are some of our trauma reactions. Startle reflexes, easily startled, okay? So we have lots of trauma reactions, and those generally dissipate in a few days or weeks. Think about the number of people. How many of you have lost the closest person to you? And in that moment, when you lost the closest person to you, whether through death or not, because the research shows a loss is a loss, okay? Death, physical death, emotional death, loss is a loss. We have the same reaction to loss. If you've lost the closest person to you, how many of you thought in that moment, when you got that news, I will never be the same? I'm not gonna laugh the same way. I'm not gonna enjoy my life the same way. And then, as the weeks progressed, you made a new normal. When you make that new normal, that is exactly what we want. We want you to, that means that you're using your coping skills to meet your trauma or your experience. That's what we want. Sometimes we don't make that, we don't get over that hump. And that's what I want to talk to you about. When we don't get over that hump, then we've got to figure out what we need to do to get us over that hump. There are big T's and there are small T's. So the big T, trauma, is whatever it is, that car accident, that loss, that assault, that rape, whatever it is, that's the big T. And then we have these little T's where we're sitting talking to someone, what Sister Gracie said, we're talking to someone, we're having the same reaction as if it just happened yesterday. That's a little T. What do I mean by little T? A little T is a trauma reaction that you have as if you were in the middle of the trauma. Your body and your mind are responding as if there is a threat. There is no threat. So what we have to do is separate the original trauma from the actual perception of trauma. So oftentimes when someone comes to me, they come talking about the big T. And as they talk about the big T, I am seeing trauma reactions: crying, panic attacks, shaking, trembling, heart palpitations, difficulty breathing, difficulty concentrating, hypervigilance. We cannot sustain that. People who are, this is why you have to get some support when you have a trauma reaction. Because people who are constantly in a reactive mode are exhausted. They are emotionally depleted and they are physically tired. Why are you physically tired and emotionally tired? Because your mind is saying, where's the threat? Where's the threat? It's coming, it's coming. I just have to find it. You have to be on high alert. You have to be on high alert. Where's the threat? It's coming, it's coming. Somebody's gonna hurt me, somebody's gonna hurt me, right? And we're getting more and more tense. But there is no threat. The little T is no threat. The big T is the threat. And you survived the big T. So now we've got to get you to a space and place where you can talk about the big T and not have the little t. If you have the big T, you have what we might call PTS, post-traumatic stress. All of us have post-traumatic stress at some point. What I'd like to do is get us to stop us before we get to PTSD. D is a disorder, and that means that you have a set of symptoms that are disrupting your functioning. That means you are not being the mom that you can be. You are not being the sister that you can be. You are not being the daughter you can be if you have a set of symptoms that is stopping you from functioning. How do you know you're not functioning? Usually the analogy I give my patients is your brain is like an attic. And when things happen to us that we don't want to deal with, we put it in the attic, just like your house, right? You put things that you don't want to throw away. You're never going to use it, but you don't want to throw it away, so you put it in the attic. And that's okay. The problem is that the attic is not an infinite amount of space. The attic has a definite capacity. Your brain has a definite capacity. What happens if you fill up the attic too much? Overload. So you won't be able to get the door shut. You won't be able, so you'll do one of these things, right? To get the door, to get everything in there and shut it, right? Okay. And then things eventually, then you break the door. And then things start to spill out into that first level. That first level is where you live. Your first level is where you live. So when your attic is full and it starts to overflow into your first level, that means that you are not getting the sleep that you need, you're not eating well, you're not engaging socially, you're not doing your job well. You need to make sure, every once in a while, you have to clean out the attic. You cannot just keep throwing things in there. And you need your attic, the entire life. You need your attic your entire life. So you cannot just keep throwing stuff in there. At some point, it is going to overflow. So part of what you do in treatment, because someone asked on Slido, how do I do this? One of the things you can do is employ your coping mechanisms, talking to friends, talking to family members, healthy people. Healthy people. If you don't have healthy people in your life or you don't know which one is healthy, then don't do that. Okay, completely ignore what I just said. Completely ignore what I just said. Maybe that's a religious leader. You know, black people don't go to therapy, they go to church. But I'm a deacon in my church. Your pastor is not a mental health provider. Okay? We love our pastors. Our pastors do amazing things for us. Our pastors are there when we're sick, when our mama's sick, when Mookie and them are sick. Our pastors are always there, and we're good with that. But they are given gifts by God, and so is a mental health provider. Okay? Everybody has been given seeds that they are supposed to nurture. And your pastor may not have been given that, even if he or she is a good listener, he or she may not have been given that seed to sow. So it's your responsibility to get yourself to the people that you need to get to. So if you don't have those healthy, so you can use those things because those are our first line defenses. But once that doesn't work, you need to be connecting with a therapist. Let me explain something. A therapist is not a friend. A therapist is not a friend. A therapist feels like a friend. Okay? They're easy to talk to. You feel love from a therapist. You feel cared about. But there is a big difference between me and my patients, because when my patient comes to me, they get emotionally naked and I keep my clothes on. It's not my job to share with you as if we're girlfriends. It is my job to dedicate that 45 minutes to you. So you're going to get all the way naked, and I'm going to help you figure things out, but I'm going to keep my clothes on. And that is why a therapist is not a friend, because the relationship is not reciprocal. We don't share the same way. That relationship is not designed to be that way. Okay? All right. So how do you say no? I'm going to actually say it in Spanish and French. No. You can find humorous ways to say things that are uncomfortable, like my plate is too full. Or I can do that as soon as God grants me an extra 2 hours in the day. As soon as that happens, I'll call you. You don't call me, I'll call you, all right? I will say, and I've said it in my board meetings, that's not my ministry. That means it would take me 5 hours to do somebody else that would take 2 hours, because that's their ministry, right? So I'm not going to take on things that I'm going to struggle through if there's somebody right next to me who can do it just as well. All right, I'm going to take on things that are my ministry so that I can do them efficiently, effectively, and well. And I'm going to let my sisters and brothers do what they need to do so that we can collectively produce a great product. Okay? Let me make sure I haven't forgotten anything I wanted to say to you. Okay, one other thing I wanted to point out is when your trauma symptoms persist, and you don't get help, you are disabling yourself. I have to point this out. I'm not going to use big words, but I am going to give you a little bit of neuropsychological context. This part right here, this is your frontal lobe, and it houses your prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain that is responsible for adulting, okay? Your children don't have this part yet. They have it, it's not developed, okay? Some adults don't have it. True. Our brains aren't through growing, especially men, until about 25, okay? So this part of your brain is responsible, we call it the CEO of your brain. It is responsible for organizing, initiating, managing, motivating. It houses your personality. That part of your brain is responsible for you deciding how you're going to manage your Saturday. Whatever you have left to do the rest of the day, that part of your brain has figured it out. From here, are you going farthest away from your house, or are you starting closest to your house to run your errands? Are you going to go to the grocery store first because you'll have more energy first, or are you going to do it last so that the ice cream doesn't melt in the car? Okay, how are you going to tackle this project? All of those things that's happening in your prefrontal cortex. When we are in distress mode and we have trauma symptoms that are uncontrolled, that shuts down. You are shutting down part of your brain because your brain is doing more important things, right? We need that part of our brain, and you do something and you say, "What? That didn't make any sense at all. What was I thinking?" Well, technically you weren't. Part of your brain is disabled. We want a fully functioning brain. We want adults walking around with fully functioning brains. So one of the things that you need to make sure that you do is treat your trauma symptoms so that your brain is not completely shut down. You can't be a mother unless your brain is functioning. You cannot be a healthy person to yourself unless your brain is fully functioning. And you're exhausted when you're in that hypervigilance mode. Last thing I'll point out to you, let me ask you this question. If I gave you, ma'am, if I gave you $1,440, okay, $1,440, and I asked you for 30 of it back, would you be okay with giving that to me? Okay, it's only $30, right? You have a lot. Right, you have 1,000. That's the executive director. You have a lot more left? I'm asking for 30 minutes in a day. There are 1,440 minutes in a day. I need you to spend 30 on yourself. That's it. If you would give me $30, you can give yourself 30 minutes. That's all we need. Okay? Thank you, ladies.
How do we take our power back? Who wants to answer that question first? Ladies, my presenters.
No is helpful in Spanish, French, or English. But I think that we can do that a number of ways, one of which is to surround ourselves with people who are healthiest for us. And I love the idea of setting boundaries. Your boundaries are your self-protective mode. So when you have loosey-goosey boundaries, and I talk to my therapists about this all the time, when you have loosey-goosey boundaries, then stuff blends everywhere. It's like chili. You know, it's hard to tease apart things in chili. It's just everywhere. And one of the things that we can do is set up boundaries so that there are things that we do in certain places, there are things that we share with certain people, and there are other things that we don't. And we need to follow those rules. We need to set personal rules for ourselves and follow them. I can give you a quick example. I had a mentee explain to me that, you know, she was in love with her boyfriend. She's 28, he's 38. He has 2 children, 3 and 13, no car, no job, and just wrecked her car. And I said, and this is somebody that you would like to marry? He sounds like a project, not a boyfriend. You have to do a whole bunch of stuff to get him where you need him to be, but you have a master's degree and a certificate. And you have a job. I know, because I pay you. Well, I pay you, right? So it sounds like this is not quite, seems like you're bringing a lot to this relationship. And she got upset with me.
Of course.
And she emotionally withdrew from me. And we had a conversation that she didn't want to have. And I said, I'm okay with you emotionally withdrawing if that's how you protect yourself. I need you to know that I don't keep people in my personal circle who can't have hard conversations. So we can be associates, but I can't have friends who cannot go there with me. I have had them, and they produced ulcerative colitis. I will not have them anymore. Okay? So I understand that I am explaining to you that it is my way or the highway, but I am saying that to you. We are either going to be able to go all the way there when I hurt your feelings, or we're not going to go there at all.
I saw a quote once that said, givers need to set boundaries because takers never do. And that quote just resonated with me because I'm such a giver. And I was like, you know what? That's true. I also had a very similar situation, Lakita, with I remarried 4 years ago, and I have 4 bonus daughters. I have 2 biological sons, so I never had daughters. And one of them is 25, and she's buying a house. And she told her dad yesterday, he wanted me to talk. I need you to talk to Taylor, because she was choosing where she was going to live based on the fact that her boyfriend, who doesn't have a job, wanted to live near his parents. I had to breathe first, even though my husband was sticking the phone in my face, to have that conversation with her. And I'm only sharing that because I think it is important that we are recipients of the hard conversation as well as givers of the hard conversation.
I wanted to add that self-love and self-care is not being selfish, it's being self-full. We have to keep ourselves full. You can't pour from an empty cup, you know, so you have to maintain where you are. And the other thing I want to say, there's a quote that says, don't let anybody should on you. So they shouldn't tell you what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Don't let anybody should on you. Just say no. So that's what I want to leave with. Okay.
So yeah, I do have some thoughts about taking power because I study or focus on empowerment. And so I think that when we're talking about empowerment, we have to recognize the balance of power, oftentimes from the people that are placing demands on us and requesting us to do things that we might not be able to do. And I think that prioritizing yourself is the way to take that power, right? And so that's being able to recognize what you can or can't do, and being able to prioritize yourself. Making a list of priorities. I think I'm actually bleeding into the second question, if that's okay. So the second question is how to say no if you know it needs to be done. Well, here's the question for you. If you have a job and you get into a car accident and can't come in the next week, what's gonna happen? Right. The company's gonna keep moving, and if you're not back in 6 months, they'll probably hire another person. So I think that's something that we really need to recognize, is that we often feel indispensable. If I don't do this, nobody else will. And when we're talking about children, we actually don't give children enough credit because they do understand, right? Children want lots of things from us, and children, bless their hearts, don't have limits on the things that they can request. But having a conversation and explaining why you can't buy a certain thing, or you can't take them to 3 parties on a Saturday, they tend to be reasonable if you are firm with your boundaries and understand what you can and cannot do.
Yes, Lynn's going to help me. She has a roving microphone. It's a lady up here. She's coming. And I think I saw your hand.
You know,
too,
I
Crystal.
just thought about what the two of you said, and I've been through some things because I'm with you, but as far as age is concerned. But one thing a man told me years ago, men will only do what women will allow. And that's something because, unfortunately, so many of us, and we've been through it, I've been through it, want to be defined by having a man on our shoulder or have a man with us. And we need to step up and realize who we are.
Thank you. Lynn Deborah behind you.
Well, yes, good morning. This is awesome, awesome, awesome. More of this. So one of the things that I had to acknowledge is that in order to begin to take my power back is that, and I would venture to say that many of us, if not most of us or all of us, are believers, right? We believe in a higher power, right? And I had to acknowledge that the same power that I access, that I turn to, that all the people in my life, they have access to that. And I began to turn them over. Like, you know, like, I know you got this person. And it helped me to then put myself first, prioritize myself. And I just want to add something that I heard Gavin DeBecker, you might be familiar with him. He's a gentleman who wrote the book, The Gift of Fear. And he pretty much saved my life, I think, years ago, because he said fear is a gift, but only if you're in present danger, not the worry fear. And he said if he could teach a class to women, that what he would teach women is that you get to say no. And he put it this way. He said, if you ask a man a question, and he says no, that's the end of this discussion. He said, but if a person, especially a man, asks a woman a question, he says that's the beginning of negotiation. And that's because we don't know how to say no. And that just really like was something for me to say, I know I'm still learning how to say no without having to justify everything and to open myself up to discussion. Because if a man asked me out, which happened in the gym, and I didn't even have my daughter tell me, Mom, just tell him you're not interested. But I didn't even do that. I just kept leading him on and tell him, giving him excuses when I'm not interested. But now, when I see him in the gym and he says, can I get your number? I'll say no, because that's how I feel.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Danielle Scott. It is a pleasure being here. For a young black woman who is considered to be a millennial, I want to add to the piece about what happened with your mentee and how she had dated a guy that essentially was not equally yoked to her. I want to add that as a young black woman, we're in a crisis with regards to the availability of young black men who are on our level as far as being educated and having it going on with regards to wanting to buy a house and setting a goal. So it's a little bit more than just, oh, we're naive to the fact of what's going on with the men in our age group, but it's just the availability of the black men that's around. And so I feel like we've got to do a little bit of a better job with reaching our young black women and encouraging them and inspiring them to know that it's all right to hold out for your best, right? Because you don't have to settle for something that is less or for a man that is not equally yoked to you. And I myself have just gone through that, something like a very tumultuous relationship where I sort of ignored a lot of the signs and the warnings that was going on because I'm a young black woman. I purchased my own home recently and dated a man that was not equally yoked to me. And so it ended up taking me through all of these turmoils and found out that he was a substance abuser. And it really damaged me emotionally. And so a big part of that is not recognizing my own power within me to hold out for somebody that is equally yoked and not having to succumb to the mentality of being a ride or die chick, right? That happens in our young women culture where we're taught to be ride or die girl, like hold out for your man, it's gonna be all right. No, it's not gonna be all right.
Would any of you ladies like to comment on that?
Thank you, everybody.
Sure. I would like to comment as a young millennial myself.
Comment on that.
That knowing that I fully understand the struggles, right? But what I discovered, and I can speak from personal experience and the circles around me, is that developing yourself is actually fulfilling, right? We spend so much time looking out there for a person. When will it happen? Every person you meet, could this be the one? But if you relax into yourself, turn into yourself, develop your skills, develop your intelligence, your knowledge, go to events and meet people freely, it allows the right person to be drawn to you, drawn to your light, drawn to all the positive things that you have going on in your life. And a person who knows that you're going places is gonna show up with the right stuff, right? A person who sees you sort of stalling and faltering is gonna try to sort of convince you to just hang out right here with them. But a person who sees you going somewhere is like, look, I wanna go too, and I'm on my way somewhere too. And that's the person you need to hold out for. But it means that you have to be willing to let your light shine and focus on developing yourself despite what it looks like as it relates to having a partner or not.
I just want to add that, just an anecdotal story, that I have a customer friend, married a surgeon, works at Hopkins. She worked at Hopkins, had a high-powered position. So she wanted some earrings, and so I made them, and I took them to her house. And I'm like, wow, she's living large up in Guilford. And so I said, well, Ronnie's, I didn't mean to give her a name. I said, I said, well, how did you meet your husband? I mean, you doing well, he's doing well, and y'all living large like this? She said, well, I met him at college. And I said, okay, well, what was your criteria? What were you looking for? She said, I was looking for a man that was focused, goal-oriented, that could provide a good life for himself and me. I was like, oh, Because when I went to Morgan, he had to be tall and fine and slim, and he could work it. I'm like, oh, I had the wrong criteria. I had to apologize to my daughters that I didn't give that to them because I didn't have that. So they chose bad men, I chose bad men because we were looking for the wrong thing. So I'm saying, sister, set your criteria.
And related to that, we have to figure out what is potential and what is not. So, I mean, if you're looking for a great car in your 20s, then you might be attracting the wrong person, right? My husband had this truck, this green truck, and it sat low in the back. It was just, it was. It was definitely a hoopty. He had a job, and he had his education, okay? So that was more important. He doesn't have that hoopty anymore. I'm sure of it, okay? He doesn't have that anymore. And I used to dress him. He now dresses himself, right? Like, I mean, sometimes people have potential. You have to decipher what is potential and what is not, right? Because sometimes the right one has already passed us by, but we were looking for the wrong things. So having a shortage of good men is not a millennial thing. Every generation of women has said, I can't find a good man. Every generation has said that. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? And it's really uncomfortable to be alone and lonely, but they are two different things. Being alone does not mean you are lonely, okay? Being lonely means you are lonely, okay? You can be alone and be fulfilled and not feel, and I'm an only child. I have it down being alone without feeling lonely, okay? So we can be alone. It's okay for us to be alone until the right person comes along. It's uncomfortable, but it's okay.
I remember when I turned 50. Yes, I'm 50. I actually will be 55 this year. Woo! And I had this big birthday party, and some of my friends, I wasn't dating anybody because I had been divorced for about 13 years. And they said, well, who are you going to take? And I said, I'm not going to take anybody. And I remember one of my friends saying, I'm so proud of you, like at the party. And I was thinking, why is she so proud of me? She said, because you didn't feel like you couldn't celebrate your birthday if you didn't have a man or a date, right? And then right after that, and I had gotten into a space because I had been divorced for so long and I was a single mom, that I had resolved that even though I wanted to remarry, I desired to remarry, that I probably would not anytime soon, right? And I'm just going to, do what I do, which is probably things that these ladies have said I shouldn't do and work so hard. But, just be in that space and take care of my youngest son, who is now 17 and going to college in the fall. Woo! But, and then right after my 50th birthday, my husband, like I said, who I married 4 years ago, saw me on Facebook. And the reason that we were friends, because I don't friend everybody. If I don't know you, I'm not that person. If I don't know you, I'm not going to friend you, is that we went to high school together. We went to high school together, and he saw me, and we connected. But I'm saying that to say that sometimes, like these ladies are saying, you do have to be okay with, well, right now, I'm just not going to have a man.
The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. It has to be the
I have a
right
question
thing at
right
the
here.
right time.
I love
There
that.
was a song that was playing early before you all got here. I think Aretha Franklin, sisters are doing it by themselves. Sisters are coming out of the kitchen. They're not doing that stuff anymore. You don't need a man. You don't have to, identify yourself as having a husband or a significant other. There are many sisters that are doing well, very successful, and doing it by themselves. We have to be okay with that.
Okay, here's your response.
Okay.
And I'm 55. Now, this is just my perception. I think we should, and I'm a social worker as well. I think we need to be real careful sometime when we say, as black women, we don't need a mate, because that's not even spiritual. God didn't make us to be alone, and he made us to have mates. Now, no one's saying go get someone from Popeyes and you got a $100,000 salary. But we gotta stop as black women being the man. We are not the man. We are women. And I say that, I'm 55, I became a woman at 40. I have a husband I've been with him 15 years. He's a man. I used to get men that was beneath me and could never rise to my occasion, but it wasn't the man, it was me. I was broken, so I found brokenness. And when I found that brokenness, instead of them giving me life, they took it from me. So I was unable to love. I stayed angry. I stayed striking out because I didn't know who I was. So when God put me by myself for 2 years, and he sent me a man, and I never thought, it wasn't the man, it was the safeness that I never got, that he gave me and made me who I became a woman. So I'm okay being submissive, not disrespectfully, but I'm okay with being the woman, and it feels so much better. But when we demoralize and degrade our black men, we are not able to be black women. Our king makes his queen, and I'm just a true believer in that. I used to cuss Carrie on, you son of a bitch. Pack the trash bag up, throw it in the street. I know that behavior. That's a behavior and a spirit. But when I checked me, the man be home, mind his business, looking at the remote control, sitting at TV, and you'll come in there, what you say? Like, what? You're looking all tore up, your hair all tore up drawers. No, but just because you home, you can have a cute little night, like a little wrap on your head. Don't nobody feel like that. You can put something in the microwave and be loved, but you got to love this. This is broken. So I want to be by myself. No, you don't want to be by yourself. But then you want to bother other people. Yeah, amen. And you want to bash other women's marriages and relationships. And when they come to you for comfort, you don't help them. You give them advice that will destroy their home. Girl, bye. Men were here for us. Thank you, God, for that male. Well, LGBT, whoever you love. But women, embrace your men. It's potential, as who said the potential? It's in them. You got to nurture it and bring it out of them, and they will hit the ground running. I work sporadically, and my husband don't never say anything. If he wasn't a real man, girl, get out of here and get a job. No, I play like I can't work, I don't feel good. And I'm being honest for 2 years. But as black women, go look in the mirror, and if you see something, not your beauty, your outer, your inner, you gotta check it. And I promise you, God will send you your mate. God don't deal with mess.
Do we have one more question? One more question, because we have a couple other agenda items.
Good morning. My name is Sarah, and it is a pleasure and an honor to be here amongst beautiful people. Thank you so much. I'm grateful. So the thing that concerns me most is the seed is planted early. When I was growing up, I always wanted to be accepted. I always wanted to be the good person. I always wanted to have everyone like and love me. With that being said, I think that's where it cuts off the boundaries. I think when you're young, we should be taught that it's okay if everybody doesn't like you. It's okay. And because I wasn't taught that at a young age, I sacrificed my boundaries because my goal is I want you all to love me. Today, I stand here as a different woman. I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care. Because my values, being accepted, is more important. So with that being said, I just want to share, I know we have to hurry up, but I just want to share one thing that made me feel like I have arrived. I'm there. Because like you said, I want a man, but I'm not going to sacrifice my values to have that man. I'm just not. So however long it takes, God is in control. That being said, I dated this man, and I'm so super serious about, I need to know your records. I need to know whether you have any STDs. So if you can't provide that for me, we're gonna have to put this on hold. So I told the guy, I said, look, I cannot do this with you until I know what's going on. It's fair for both of us to produce. And so let's just set up an appointment and we go together. Every time it was time for us to go, 3 times, there was always an excuse. So I said, you know what? We don't have nothing to look forward to until you're ready for me, because you're not taking me serious. So I cut it off. And it felt so good to have my power to say, hey, you know what? We ain't doing this. Back in the day, I was not that strong, but thank God today is a different day.
Thank you.
And that's what I was talking about when I was talking about prioritizing your sexual health. So I appreciate that example, because that is one example, is show me your papers. Here are mine, where are yours? Thank you for sharing that.
Let's thank these ladies again. I believe you all are all staying. Yes, yes, yes. So this is not the end. You will still get the opportunity to engage with them. A couple of things I was reminded of. If you're sharing on social media, then please share the hashtag Black Minds Matter, okay? All right. And then the other thing is that you were given a blue ticket. It was in your name tag. Everybody have a blue ticket? So while you're looking for your blue ticket, I also want to acknowledge, I see a couple of my staff, but we're in this beautiful space today because of the Baltimore City Community College Student Wellness Center. Am I saying that correctly? Okay. And then the director here is Miss Angela Don. And I don't have notes up here. And then I also thought I saw my soror, Nicole Cameron. Okay, Nicole, all right. So Nicole is a dean here at the Baltimore City Community College, and she rallied all these beautiful volunteers for us. We usually are running around with like chickens with our heads cut off. And when they start coming in, they came in so fast and furious that we almost didn't have something for all of them to do. But they are wonderful. We thank you for coming out this morning. And then I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my staff. So I've been tugging on James all morning, but James DeRochelle, he's actually one of the newer staff members. He's our senior operations manager. Lynn Johnson is a program manager. Roxana Feenster, when she introduces herself, she always says, I'm Jan's assistant. But she's more than that. She's bigger than that, right? She's my executive assistant, our office manager, and she does so much more. See Cheryl Maxwell. Cheryl also is a program manager, but Cheryl is just like one of those people, and I guess you have to be like that when you're around me, like Lynn. You just have to be willing to say, I don't really have a job description. I just do whatever I need to do. And so that's who Cheryl is. But I just also want to acknowledge, you all have seen these beautiful pieces of art. Beautiful pieces of art. So this is a collection that was, that is the efforts of Carolyn Ann. Can't think of Carolyn Ann's last name. Watts, Carolyn Ann Watts. And Carolyn Ann Watts was Cheryl's sister. And Carolyn Ann Watts had mental illnesses, but she was also a prolific artist. And she was a recluse. And for years was not in touch with her family. And then when her family kind of reconnected with her life, it was at the point where she died from suicide. And Cheryl does not mind me telling this story because she has actually created a foundation for Carolyn Ann. And so when they went into Carolyn Ann's home, she had over 200, 270, 170 pieces of art like this. Unnamed, unsigned, and undated. Right? So that's what Cheryl calls it, unnamed, unsigned, and undated. These pieces are for sale if you're interested. Cheryl has made great relationships with art museums to hang them. And she's curating this collection in honor of her sister, but also Shirley's a licensed therapist as well. And so she uses this as an opportunity to share about art and mental health. So I just wanted to say that because she so freely shares this art with us. And then Nia Jones is, I believe she's the newest person on our team. And so Nia's working on some special projects for us, especially a new program that you'll hear about soon. We're doing a really, really comprehensive youth and wellness program. And then Richard Rowe, who's out in the hall, who did not want to be an interference in the women's space, but he is here to support us. Richard Rowe, who has a long history with the Black Mental Health Alliance and serves as a consultant as well. And then I just want to, again, thank you all for being here this morning, so give yourselves a hand as well. Instinctively, I don't know, when I'm exercising or when I'm stressed, I feel like I'm not breathing. Like I just mindlessly turn off, not to the point where I'm passing out, but I turn off the fact that breathing is so important to us. So before we transition, I just want us to focus on our breathing for a few minutes. So if you would sit up straight in your chairs for me. And if you would close your eyes. Place your right hand on your belly and your left hand on your chest. And just notice the rise and fall of both your hands with each natural breath. When you're ready, transition into breathing deeply into your low belly, letting your right hand rise and fall. So it's even more intentional. While your left hand finds stillness over your chest. Do this for a few breaths. Feeling your belly rise and fall. And then go back to your normal, natural breathing. Now try just inhaling through your nose. Hold it and exhale through your mouth. Big inhale through your nose. Hold it, and now exhale through your mouth. Doesn't it feel good just to be still for a moment? I know we have all kinds of things that we're going to do when we leave here today, but in this moment, just stillness. One more time. Inhale through your nose. Hold it. Now exhale through your mouth. Now open your eyes. Thank you for trusting the process. So what we're going to do now is, one of the things when we were planning out what this day would look like, we didn't want you all to sit all day. Oh, not all day. We only have 3 hours, but sit the whole 3 hours. So Dr. Cynthia Pace, who is in the back there, she is a facilitator, strategic planning guru, and also a consultant with the Black Mental Health Alliance, helped us frame what today looks like. And we just want the opportunity for you to maybe meet people that you don't know and brainstorm. So we're going to be using Slido again. And Does Jane have it up for me? He's coming to put it up. We want you all to create lists. There are 3 scenarios, and we want you to create lists. We're going to compile these lists and not only put them on our new website, which we hope is going to launch by April 1st, James and Zena, and Alana. But we also will share that with you as a thank you for coming today. So the first scenario is write a list of positive, self-affirming mantras to start memorizing and internalizing in your life each day. Use these to replace the negative messages you've grown accustomed to. We've heard so many this morning. It's okay to say no. Put your mask on first. You can't pour from an empty cup. So there are many that have been floating in the air throughout the morning, but you may have some others, and we'd like you to share them with us. We also would like someone at each table designated who's going to actually put them in Slido. And then we're going to have a few people after we go through each scenario, after you get the opportunity to go through each scenario, to work on that scenario. The thing I would like to do is, once I say switch and go to the second scenario, then I also want you to switch tables. I want you to be at a table that you weren't at for scenario 1. Okay? All right? And then while you're at the tables, have fun too. Take some selfies and post them under hashtag Black Minds Matter. Okay, there's an event on Facebook that you can share. And this event, see, I told you I'm not the technology person. You can share this event on, come on, Alana, help me. And Alana does our newsletter and a lot of posting for our events. She has done a phenomenal job transitioning that whole and making that a better process for the Black Mental Health Alliance. And she gets me. Thank you. Okay, scenario 1. Scenario 1, you can start at your tables, probably give you, I don't know, about 7 minutes. And then I'll switch and we'll put up scenario 2, and I'm asking you to switch tables too so you can meet some other sisters.
And friends, we came up with coloring, my personal favorite, and we also talked about movement, right? Moving your body and enjoying that and enjoying those experiences. Did I catch it? I don't know where they are in the room right now, but did I get it? I got it, right? Yes, okay, I got it. Okay, thank
Can you?
I do a lot of training as well, and one of the things that I will put, especially if I do a day-long training, I put little manipulatives on the table to keep people, you know, engaged and keep their minds active. And one of the things I started doing is putting adult coloring books on tables. And you can buy them in a dollar store. So I just give you that little tidbit. Okay, scenario 3. Anybody want to share something that powerful that they received from scenario 3? Would one of the BTST ladies like to come up and just share what BTST offers and that you have a table back here? Thank you, ma'am. She was a rock star. She jumped right up.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Lacey Allen, and I am a therapist, supervisor, and the director of our PG office. And we offer mental health therapy for the one good thing that we offer, the mental health therapy, is that we offer it in the community, in the homes. We take it to where the clients are. A lot of times there's the stigma of going into the office, or they don't have the transportation to get there. So we take it to them. So I've done therapy at restaurants, I've done therapy in my car, I've done therapy on porches, backyards, wherever I can get them to listen and to talk and to share so they can start their healing is where we take it to them at. And that's the good thing that drew me into BTST, that we bring the services to the community. They don't have to come to us, but when they do, we have a nice environment for them to come to. So we deal with mental health illness and helping the community heal.
What does BTST stand for?
Better Tomorrow Starts Today.
Is there a phone number if someone wants to reach you? They have a table in the back, so they have some resources in the back that will have their contact information on it. Thank you. James also wanted me to share that these portals will be open for a week. So if you think of other items you'd like to add to scenario 1, 2, or 3, please feel free to do that. Okay, and then what we'll do is after that, Nia and or James, will synthesize that information and we'll send it out or make it available somehow. They'll tell me how to do that. Because what I would do is probably some old school way. But see, I got these new school millennials who are going to show me how to step my game up, right? Okay. Did you all notice, okay, let me just say this. I'm an old Baptist girl, right? Started out with prayer, but I've been in Baptist church all my life. And for 20-something years, I've been in New Shiloh Baptist Church, which is why we have a lot of activity there, because it's my church. So when I joined New Shiloh Baptist Church under Dr. Harold Carter Sr., one of the things, I learned so much from him. One of the things that Pastor Carter did, he never lost an opportunity to take a collection. And so this engagement, this day, was of no cost to you, but I do have envelopes. And I'm asking you to please make a donation to the Black Mental Health Alliance. I'm not going to tell you how much. I'm not going to ask you to do something that's outside of your means. So maybe somebody here's got $1,000 to pay for my breakfast this morning. But whatever you feel that God lays on your heart, then I would appreciate if you would consider giving Black Mental Health Alliance a donation. Oh, no, we don't have Cash App, but we do have PayPal. Is that something that, oh, okay. You can make a tax-deductible donation today using PayPal. Just visit the Donate to a Cause section, then search for the Black Mental Health Alliance for education and consultation. Okay? So we're coming to very close to the end of our time. But wanted to say a couple more things. Did everybody get a journal? I think maybe all of the presenters mentioned or had conversation about journaling and how powerfully healing that is. And so we ask that you please, if you did not get one, make sure you get one. Everybody got one? Okay. And that you, even today, because we don't want to put off tomorrow what we can do today, right? We need to put that on the scenario 1. And write a short statement in your journal that describes your experience today. You can start by doing that. Write a short statement in your journal that's a tip or tool that you may use in your healing that you got from today's session. And then Cheryl is you're gonna keep walking back around, and when Cheryl, Lynn, Nia, Roxana, just give any of them your answer. Okay. Just collect them and give them to Roxana. All right, Shania, we have a couple more gifts here. Come on, young lady, help me out. So last year, the Black Mental Health Alliance had the opportunity to host Jennifer Lewis at the Natural Hair Expo. And so we have a signed book by Miss Jennifer Lewis, the mother of Black Hollywood. So we're going to pull the next ticket.
Three, 7, 4, 0, 8, 3. What was the number? 3, 7, 4, 0, 8, 3.
Going once. Zero, 8, 3.
Going twice?
Right.
No.
All right, one another one.
Three, 7, 4, 0, 4, 3.
0, 4, 3. 0, 4, 3.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have 0, 4, 3. I'm sorry. My mind was somewhere else.
Okay, look at your mind.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Next gift card is from Baked in Baltimore, 6848 Ricestown Road, DCSweetPotatoCake.com. This is redeemable for $40. They have sweet potato cake flavors, original red velvet, and chocolate. And another black-owned business.
374099. What? 099.
Is that you, Mom?
Good job.
Okay, granddaddy of them all.
A new
Okay,
car.
Black Mental Health Alliance chief over here, we got some good prizes. A $100 American Express gift card. Dig deep, Shania. Somebody gonna give you a big hug for this one.
374059.
59.
But if she's not here, call her.
374086.
86. No?
374010.
10. 010.
Precious.
374010.
374134.
Oh.
134. The anticipation is mounting.
374063.
6-3.
Three seven four 112.
112. 112. So now you can buy some cute baby things.
That's right, Black Mental Health Alliance.
Gotta get one. Miss Janice Parham. Let's clap it up for our Black businesses that gave us these gift cards. Now, ladies, as we come to the end of our session, this is not the end of our encounter with each other. We've gotten such incredible response. I love Black poets. I love especially the Black female poets, like Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni. But today I want to share a poem from you from Sonia Sanchez. It's called Catch the Fire. Not going to read the whole poem, but when the presenters started speaking and even some of the music that was playing, I was like, God, thank you for giving me this poem, because we've been talking about fire all day. Where is your fire? I say, where is your fire? Can't you smell it coming out of your past? The fire of living, not dying. The fire of loving, not killing. The fire of blackness, not gangster shadows. Where is our beautiful fire that gave light to the world? The fire of pyramids. The fire that burned through the hulls of slave ships and made us breathe. The fire that made guts in the chitlins. The fire that took rhythms and made jazz. The fire of sit-ins and marches that made us jump boundaries and barriers. The fire that took street talk sounds and made righteous Imhotep raps. Where is your fire? The torch of life, full of Nzinga and Nat Turner and Garvey and Du Bois and Fannie Lou Hamer and Martin and Malcolm and Mandela. Sister, sister, brother, brother, come. Catch your fire, don't kill. Hold your fire, don't kill. Learn your fire, don't kill. Be the fire, don't kill. Catch the fire and burn with eyes that see our souls. Walking, singing, building, laughing, learning, loving, teaching, being. Hey brother, hey sister, here is my hand. Here is my hand. Catch the fire and live, 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 live. So I think that everybody also got a mirror. Did you get a mirror? Yeah. So I want you to open your mirror. I want you to stand up and open your mirror. And if my presenters didn't get a mirror, can somebody give them a mirror too? Yeah, yeah. Oh, yes, you may. Absolutely. You can do that now while they're getting you a mirror.
I just want to share that with some folks that at my boutique, I talked about the creative solution that we do. So on Wednesday, we call it Wellness Wednesday. We do a wellness group of women. There's two groups, women under 50 and women over 50. So if you're interested, you can take my number and call me. I didn't bring enough business cards for everyone, but I'll give you my number. Okay, so the name of the group is longevity lifestyles. So there's all aspects of wellness for women. Financial, spiritual, mental, emotional. So check me out. My phone number is 410-241-7283. 410-241-7283. So come check us out on Wellness Wednesdays. Thank you. Just call me and I'll let you know which group. Yes. Yeah.
Language that we speak to ourselves and how important that is. I want you to look in the mirror. And I want you to say, girl, you are beautiful.
You are beautiful. You are amazing.
You are gorgeous.
You are gorgeous.
You are incredible.
You are incredible.
And you deserve to take care of you.
And you deserve to take care of you.
I am going to catch the fire.
I am going to catch the fire.
And live.
And live.
And live.
And live.
And live.
And live.
Now I told you I was a Baptist girl, so touch your neighbor.
Touch your neighbor.
And say, girl, catch the fire. Catch the fire. And live. And live. And live. And live. And live. And live. Before I lose you all, if you could please fill out the evaluation. It's also in Slido, the evaluation. That would be so wonderful if you could do that. And then also, hello everybody, just 1 second. You go to Black Men Health Alliance trying to be conservative. Can we have your name tags back? Okay, that'd be great. You can leave them out at the registration desk. The plastic is what we really want. Want the plastic. Want the plastic. So the next trilogy, the Act 2 in Trilogy of Trauma is April 13th. The topic will be around children and youth. And then Act 3 or the epilogue, June 15th, and that's for the men. It's only men, just like this session was for only